Well, hiya, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. I wanted to come to you today with a book haul. This is my basically the finishing touches on my Christmas book haul. I had gotten some Amazon money for Christmas, and so I got a stack of books here that I ordered from Amazon. A couple of them I paid a little bit more than usual because they're newer books, but I've been really wanting them. And I got a book here that I got from the Friends of the Library book sale that I got, or not book sale, excuse me, the book cart that's at our local library. And I'm very excited about that one. It is in awesome condition, as you will see. I thought I got a really good deal on that. And then my good friend Peg over at the History Shelf, she sent me a box of books. And so I'm very happy to have those and include those in the Ruttenberg Library. Thank you, Peg. I greatly appreciate it. It's always nice to get gifts in the mail. But I wanted to share that stack of books with you. There are a couple titles in there I am very excited about. And I got one book here that I've seen on a couple different channels that I'm pretty pumped about reading. Also, in addition to this book haul, I wanted to let you know that today, January 13th, I think, is officially when I started my channel. And I got to go back and check the videos, but I think January 14th was my very first video that I put up on BookTube. So I'm recording this on Thursday, but I'm uploading it on Friday. So it's going to be one way or another. I am hitting my birthday. It is my 2-year birthday here on BookTube. So I'm very excited. I've made it 2 years. I did get running through my head, when do I officially become a veteran on BookTube? How long do you have to be on BookTube, or how many videos do you have to make to become a veteran? I want to become a veteran. That is my goal. I want my channel to stick around so that I can hit that veteran status, and then just keep it going, having fun. So anyway, I'm rambling, so let's go ahead and get started on this so the video doesn't last like 10 hours or something like that. So anyway, we'll start with that book that I got from the Friends of the Library book cart at our local library. I am very excited. This, according to the cover, this would have originally been, if you'd have bought it at the bookstore, $50 book. And this thing is in pristine condition with one small exception. I'll show you. I got one small rip right there on the cover, but I could put some tape on that and easily fix that. But the rest of this book is in pristine condition. So we got the American Heritage New History of the Civil War, narrative by Bruce Catton, and it's edited with an introduction by James McPherson. So both of these guys are two of my all-time favorite Civil War authors. So I was ecstatic when I found that book on the library cart. And as I said, it looks like it's in brand new condition. Honestly, this book looks like it's never been read. The pages are crisp, clean. It's in pristine condition, other than that little small tear at the top of the book cover. But if you are not familiar with these, you've got pictures throughout this that really illustrate the American Civil War. You'll notice there's pictures, and it's also got narrative. This is just going to be a fun book to, you can read it cover to cover, which I probably will, but you can also set it on the coffee table if you wish, or on the side table for people to look at, and you can obviously promote one of the greatest events in American history to study about, which is the Civil War. Obviously my all-time favorite, as many of you know. So anyway, very excited to have that in the collection. I'm not going to read the jacket cover or anything because it's pretty self-explanatory. So let's go to the books that I got in the mail from Amazon. These are the ones that I ordered. I picked a couple of titles that I had not in the past had any books about. I really wanted to get some books on these individuals, and one of the goals I think that I'm going to start having for my library when I go to buy books online. So obviously when you go to the bookstore, the used bookstore, you're kind of, what they have is what they have. You don't have like a choice in you know, this is what I want, and it's not 100% sure that that's going to be there. So if I go to the bookstore, that's a little different. I'm just cruising through the shelves seeing what they have. But if I have a choice and I am going to order online, I think I'm going to be a little bit more selective in my topics. And so one of the things that, or one of the events in American history that I do not know a whole lot about, because my language arts teacher hits it when she does her unit on slavery. And for me, in order to connect the first half of the year to the end of the year, I have to skip over a small chunk of history in our American history timeline. And so this is one of those events that gets skipped over. And the big reason I skip it is because I know it's being covered by our language arts teacher. And so I don't know much about it. I've never had any books on it, but this is this new book that I got is The Fires of Jubilee, Nat Turner's Fierce Rebellion by Stephen Oates. Now, this is a small volume, but I trust Stephen Oates. He's a good author. So you can see the cover there, kind of a neat cover. This is I believe, a reprint of obviously a reprint of what the original looked like, because I think this is actually an older title. But this is let's see, this is from Harper Perennial and out of New York. Yeah, so let's see, 1975 was the original publication date. Excuse me, I can't talk. But this was a reprint in 2016, it looks like. So very excited. I don't know much about Nat Turner's Rebellion, and the reason I bought it is recently I've been reading a lot on like Frederick Douglass and the 1850s and slavery and, you know, that antebellum period. And so his name keeps popping up all over the place. And I wanted to, you know, just add to my knowledge. So let me read this front cover, his back cover to you. The Bloody Slave Rebellion, led by Nat Turner in Virginia in 1831, and the savage reprisals that followed shattered beyond repair the myth of the contented slave and the benign master, and intensified the forces of change that would plunge America into the Civil War. The true story behind the major motion picture, The Birth of a Nation, this acclaimed and definitive history, is now reissued with the complete text of Nat Turner's riveting first-hand account, The Confessions of Nat Turner. In The Fires of Jubilee, Stephen B. Oates, the award-winning biographer of Abraham Lincoln and Martin Luther King Jr., presents a gripping and insightful narrative of the rebellion, the complex, gifted, and driven man who led it, the social conditions that produced it, and the legacy is left behind. Here's the dramatic recreation of the turbulent period that marked a crucial turning point in American history. Yeah, so I am real excited to read this. As I said, it's not like a super long book. It's, let's see, it's under 200 pages. The actual text of the book, let me get to it, is about 154 pages. So that'll take no time to knock that out. And I'm just real excited to read that, add to my knowledge. The next one is basically in the same, with the same idea that I'm trying to build on my knowledge. And I've seen this book, and I've seen it for quite a long time, and I've always wanted to get it. It's The Drill Master of Valley Forge. So I'm switching subjects here, but The Drill Master of Valley Forge, The Baron de Steuben, and The Making of the American Army by Paul Lockhart. And I really like that cover. I love that. I love paintings from this time period. They add a lot of character to the time period. So this book was a little bit beat up. I was a little disappointed in the condition of it. Excuse me. And I'll show you here in just a second. It's from Smithsonian Books, Harper, out of New York, and it is from the year, oh goodness, 2008. 2008. Now, this is what we get when we order on Amazon. Sometimes things don't come as advertised. You'll see the Nat Turner book was bent a little bit on the cover. This one, let's see if we can, yeah, you can see it. You see that? It's got a big crease in the cover. which, I mean, it'll go on my shelf. It'll be fine. But definitely if I see another version of it, or maybe if they have a hardback of it, I'm going to replace this copy because of that. That kind of annoys me. And if you notice, let's see if I can show you. It's got some stains on a couple of the pages. So it's got some wear on this copy. But it'll serve its purpose. Again, I have not read anything on Baron von Steuben. I don't know a ton about him. I've read a little bit in other books as parts of chapters, but not a whole biography. So this will be my first for that. So read the back cover. It says, a failure in midlife, the Baron de Steuben uprooted himself from his native Europe to seek one last chance at glory and fame in the New World. Steeped in the traditions of the Prussian army of Frederick the Great, the most ruthlessly effective in Europe, he taught the demoralized soldiers of the Continental Army how to fight like Europeans. His guiding hand shaped the fighting force that triumphed over the British at Monmouth, Stony Point, and Yorktown. But his influence did not end with the Revolution. Steuben was instrumental in creating West Point and in writing the first official regulations of the American Army, and his principles have guided the American armed forces to this day. In The Drill Master of Valley Forge, Paul Lockhart tells the remarkable story of an extraordinary man bringing to flesh and blood the life and hitherto little-known figure whose image has long been part of iconography of our revolutionary heritage. And I know I like to talk about him in class a little bit, the little bit that I know. Just the funny that while at Valley Forge, you know, he didn't speak English, and so they had to go through translators, and history says he was quite the cusser, and so we talk about that in class. It always gets the kids chuckling when we start describing how his teaching got across to his soldiers, his student soldiers. And anyway, don't worry, I'm not cussing in class, but yeah, you know, I like to give them the real life scenarios of what's going on. So I tell them this is what happened, and they always get to chuckling. But anyway, moving on here. The next two books that I got from Amazon, the last two from Amazon, are from one of my all-time favorite authors, and I've been wanting these books for a long time. Well, one of them for a long time. The other one is a brand new book. So this is from H.W. Brands. This first one is Heirs of the Founders, The Epic Rivalry of Henry Clay, John Calhoun, and Daniel Webster, the second generation of American giants. And so I was really excited when this came in the mail. I've been wanting to read this. Of course, you know, when you read American history and you read about the arguments in Congress, the best known people were these three individuals in the early, you know, the first half of, let's call it pre-Civil War. You know, Henry Clay, John C. Calhoun, and Daniel Webster. They were by far the best known of all of the congressmen. This is, let's see here. It's from Doubleday out of New York, and it is a 2018 book, so it's a couple years old, but not very not very old. I saw it when it came out on the shelves. At the time I bought something else that was a little cheaper. I did buy a couple brand new books at that time that came out, but they were just a little bit cheaper than what this one was running, and so I got a little bit stingy, I guess, and that's what kept me from getting it. But anyway, I went ahead and got this on Amazon. Let me read that front cover to you. It says, in the early 1800s, three young men strode onto the national stage, elected to Congress at a moment when the Founding Fathers were beginning to retire to their farms. Daniel Webster of Massachusetts, a champion orator, known for his eloquence, spoke for the North in its business class. Henry Clay of Kentucky, as dashing as he was ambitious, embodied the hopes of the rising West. And South Carolina's John Calhoun, with piercing eyes and an even more piercing intellect, defended the South and slavery. Together, these heirs of Washington, Jefferson, and Adams took the country to war, battled one another for the presidency, and set themselves the task of finishing the work of the founders had left undone. Their rise was marked by dramatic duels, fierce debates, scandal, and political betrayal. Yet each, in his own way, sought to remedy the two glaring flaws in the Constitution: its refusal to specify where authority ultimately rested, with the states or the nation, and its unwillingness to address the essential incompatibility of republicanism and slavery. They wrestled with these issues for 4 decades, arguing bitterly and hammering out political compromises that held the Union together, but only just. Then in 1850, when California moved to join the Union as a free state, the immortal trio had one last chance to save the country from the risk of civil war. But by that point, they had never been further apart. Thrillingly and authoritatively, H.W. Brands narrates an epic American rivalry and the little-known drama of the dangerous early years of our democracy. So I'm real excited about that. That is my favorite time period. It's part of my favorite time period to learn about, read about. So that's going to be nice. H.W. Brands, if you are new to H.W. Brands and have not ever read him, I highly suggest going and finding his books. He tells a good story. He's really good at telling a very readable and understandable story. He takes a lot of complex things and simplifies it so that you can understand it. I really appreciate his work. So here is the last book from Amazon, and it, like I said, is also from H.W. Brands, and it is his brand new one that's out. It was out on Amazon, but I never saw it at like Walmart, Target. I was going to buy it from the store, brand new, but I couldn't find it. It was not out, at least in the stores that I go to. So this is Our First Civil War, Patriots and Loyalists in the American Revolution. And so this one is all about basically what I am teaching right now in my classroom. And this is, like I said, a brand new book, just came out from Doubleday out of New York, and it was at the very end of last year, not this year, but it was last year when it came out, 2021. So I'll read that cover to you, and that'll wrap up my stuff from Amazon. So what causes people to forsake their country and take up arms against it? What prompts their neighbors, hardly distinguishable in station or success, to defend that country against the rebels? Excuse me. That is the question H.W. Brands answers in the powerful new history of the American Revolution. George Washington and Benjamin Franklin were the unlikeliest of rebels. Washington, in the 1770s, stood at the apex of Virginia society. Franklin was more successful still, having risen from his humble origins to world fame. John Adams might have seemed a more obvious candidate for rebellion, being of cantankerous temperament, and even so, he revered the law. Yet all 3 men became rebels against the British Empire that fostered their success. Others in the same circle of family and friends chose differently. William Franklin might have been expected to join his father, Benjamin, in rebellion, but remain loyal to the British. So did Thomas Hutchinson, a royal governor and friend of the Franklins, and Joseph Galloway, an early challenger to the crown. They soon heard themselves denounced as traitors for not having betrayed the country where they grew up. Native Americans and the enslaved were also forced to choose sides as the Civil War broke out around them. After the Revolution, the Patriots were cast as heroes and fathers, while the Loyalists were relegated to bit parts best forgotten. Our first Civil War reminds us that before America could win its revolution against Britain, the Patriots had to win a bitter civil war against family, neighbors, and friends. So I'm real excited on partaking in that. I know I believe Peg over at the History Shelf got this book in also, and so she had asked if I had gotten it, and yes, I did. There it is. So I'm real excited to read that. Again, I cannot sing H.W. Brands' praises enough. He just writes a really good story, and it really works out well for if you are a newcomer to American history. He just tells a really good story. All right, so the next stack is, like I said, Peg from the History Shelf sent me a box of books, and again, thank you, Peg. I always like presents, so it's always nice to see, to get some surprises. So we're sitting at about 20 minutes in the video, so I'll probably go through these a little bit quicker than I did with these. I won't read them all. But the first one on the stack, real excited about this. I saw this on several people's channels. And again, after going through World War II with the kids, that's going to make this book even better. This is a advanced reader's copy, but this is Robert Lyman's book, A War of Empires, Japan, India, Burma, and Britain, 1941 to 1945. Many of you have seen this out there. This is a new, I think, 2021. Let me double check. 2021 book, and it is from Osprey Publishing. And I don't know if I've got any. If I have Osprey Publishing in my collection, it's not very many. So a few of these books are from Osprey, so that's gonna be kind of neat. Build up that part of my collection. But again, from 2021, I'll read the back cover. In December of 1941, the Japanese smashed into the British, American, and European empires in the Pacific and the Far East. Japan had long desired an empire to rival that of the United States and European powers. The Japanese swept into Malaya and Burma as it simultaneously attempted to prevent America deploying its Pacific Fleet from Pearl Harbor. And by February, Singapore had fallen, and by May 1940, the Japanese had pushed the weak British forces out of Burma into India. But change was coming. In 1943, the Allies, British, American, and Chinese, were determined to defeat the Japanese. New commanders were appointed, significant training together took place, and new equipment arrived and new tactics developed. Perhaps most significantly, the Indian Army, defeated in 1941-42, was rebuilt. 1 million new recruits, all volunteers, were added to its ranks. Many of these Indian volunteers were fighting not to preserve the British Empire, but to resist the far more brutal Japanese Empire and in hope for a future independent India. In 1944 would see the tide of war inexorably turn. Allied defeat in 1942 now turned into a series of extraordinary victories, culminating in the Japanese defeat at Mandalay in May of 45 and the collapse of all Japanese forces in Burma. Robert Lyman charts this dramatic change in fortunes as Allied forces fought against a brutal enemy. Their victories would ultimately redraw the map of the region and an independent India. Yeah, so I'm pretty excited to see where that goes. That's an area where I don't know a whole lot about the war. I need to learn more. My wife's grandfather fought out in the Pacific, and I know this is getting some in the Pacific, but it sounds like it's getting more into Southern Asia. But he was still a part of that major, the American side of that, and so I want to build on my knowledge in that area. So thank you, Peg, for that. The next book is from the Civil War. I was actually kind of surprised because I didn't think that Peg got rid of Ulysses S. Grant books. So I feel very privileged to get this one. And it's Grant at Vicksburg, The General and the Siege by Michael B. Ballard. And so that's kind of a neat cover there with the painting. And this is... Let's see, this is from Southern Illinois University Press out of Carbondale and Edwardsville, and it is a 2013 edition. And so this will be nice. It's a fairly slim volume, so it's not the it's 196 pages, so that'll be a pretty quick read on a topic that I enjoy reading about. I'm not going to read the inside flap to you because it pretty much tells you what it's about. So that'll be good for my Civil War stuff. Here are the next three are advanced reader copies, and they're in topics I don't typically, or at least 2 of the 3 are in topics I don't typically read much about. So that'll be good for adding to my knowledge. But the next one is Lost in the Valley of Death, a story of obsession and danger in the Himalayas by Harley Rustad. Hopefully I'm saying that right. All right. And I'll just read the back cover of this one. Let me get the... This is a 2022 book, so this one's brand new, and it's from HarperCollins. So, did that have? I must have taken out the paperwork for this one. I thought there was a paper with it. I must have taken it out, but yeah, that'll be interesting. Lost in the Valley of Death. So, in the Himalayas. I don't know that I would really want to be lost in the Himalayas. I'm pretty sure I know what would end up happening. All right, so the next one is The Hated Cage, an American tragedy in Britain's most terrifying prison by Nicholas Guyot. Hopefully I said that right. If I didn't, please forgive me. All right, this one is from Basic Books out of New York, and it's a 2022 book. So, brand spanking new, coming out. This one says, after the War of 1812, more than 5,000 American sailors were marooned in Dartmouth prison on a barren English plain. The conflict was over, but they had been left to rot by their government. Although they shared a common nationality, the men were divided by race. Nearly 1,000 were black, and at the behest of the white prisoners, Dartmoor became the first racially segregated prison in U.S. history. The Hated Cage documents the extraordinary but separate communities these men built within the prison and terrible massacre of 9 Americans by prison guards that destroyed those worlds. As white people in the United States debated whether they could live alongside African Americans in freedom, could Dartmoor's black and white Americans band together in captivity? Drawing on extensive new material, The Hated Cage is a gripping account of this forgotten history. So that sounds pretty interesting. That is, it comes out from Basic Books on April 5th, 2022. And I know nothing about this. This is a brand new one. Brand spanking new one for me. All right, so here's another, the last of those advanced reader copies, and it's called They Called Us Lucky: The Life and Afterlife of the Iraq War's Hardest Hit Unit by Ruben Gallego with Jim DeFelice. Hopefully I said that right, or at least I was close. And this is, I believe, a brand new book also. It's from Custom House in 2021, so from last year. And it says, at first, they were Lucky Lima, infantryman Ruben Gallego and his fellow Marines in Lima Company, 3rd Battalion, 25th Regiment, were young reservists eager to serve their country when they were activated for duty in Iraq in 2005. Drawn largely from blue-collar towns, immigrant households, and Native American reservations, they landed in Al-Anbar and went to work looking for arms and caches and insurgents. The Marines were good and they were lucky. After 2 months in the most dangerous territory in the world, they hadn't had a casualty. Then Lima's fortunes flipped. On one terrible day, their platoon sergeant was killed in an ambush. 2 days later, Ruben's best friend, Jonathan Grant, died in an IED attack, along with a score of others. A disastrous operation in Haditha in August of 2005 claimed the lives of 13 Lima Marines. Their amphibious vehicle incinerated by an IED. It was the worst single-day casualty count for the Marines since the 1983 Beirut bombings. By the time 325 went home in November of 2005, the unit had lost more men than any other in the war. 46 Marines, 2 Navy corpsmen, serving with the battalion in Iraq were killed in action during the roughly 9-month activation. They called us lucky, details Gallego's combat experience for the first time. The book also reveals the struggles he and the men in Lima went through after the war, when they relied on one another as much as ever. As we mark the 20th anniversary of the War on Terror, this Veterans Day, the singular yet representative story of Lucky Lima offers a fitting opportunity for reflection. All right, and it says, it came out in November of 2021. So, be on the lookout if you're interested in those type of books. So that'll be good. All right, so the next two, and I'm almost done here. The next two are Osprey Publishing, and if you guys follow Peg, she really likes these, and I don't own any at all, but she really likes these little, how many pages? Like 80 to 100 page books on basically just warfare. It might be about one weapon, it might be about one unit, one army, one battle, and there's a bunch of them out there. There's several different series, and she sent me a couple of them, so I'm pretty excited because I've never read any of them, and I'm pretty excited to see what they're all about. It doesn't look like it'll take very long to read them. It's got lots and lots of pictures. This first one is B-25 Mitchell versus the Japanese destroyer, the Battle of Bismarck Sea, 1943, and it's by Mark Lardis. And as you will see, there is lots of, as she has pointed out in her videos, lots of maps, lots of photos, and they are throughout this entire thing. Lots of great photography. And I like photos. They help me, pay attention to what is going on. There's another real good one. They got some color photos in here. That's awesome. Showing you what the bombs are made of and talking about individual, weapons. So anyway, this is going to be real good. I'm looking forward to that. I'll be able to get through that pretty quickly. So thank you, Peg, for that. And the other Osprey Publishing one that she gave me is Cusco, 1536 to 37, the battle for the heart of the Inca Empire. Look at that painting. Isn't that cool? And she always talks about she likes the paintings on these, and I totally agree. I love old artwork, or new artwork for that matter, because a lot of this stuff is done by, computer-generated stuff. So this one is, let's see, by Cy Shepard, if I didn't say that before, illustrated by Giuseppe Rava. Hopefully I'm close on that. And it came out in 2021. So real excited about that. Again, you got lots of maps in here helping you follow the events. Lots of pictures. There's Machu Picchu. All right, so you kind of get the idea. It's all about the Battle of Cusco. Battle of Cusco. So last book in this haul, and I'm real excited. I started this. I didn't get real far because my 4-year-old daughter kind of distracted me, but I'm real excited about this. It will not take very long to read, but it is awesome. It is a beautiful, beautiful book. It's The Lincoln Funeral, an Illustrated History, and it's by Michael Levy. It is absolutely beautiful book, and it'll go great in my Lincoln collection. I always love when I get Lincoln books. It never fails. This is from West Holm out of Yardley, and it is a 2015 book. I will read the inside cover of this last one to you, and then we will wrap up this book haul, mail haul. Says the Civil War burdened the United States economically, politically, morally, spiritually, as nothing has before or since. The overwhelming cataclysm which would have wrecked a lesser nation ended with Robert E. Lee's surrender of the Army of Northern Virginia at Appomattox on April 9th, 1865. Just as the weary citizens on both sides let themselves contemplate peacetime pursuits, came one final blow. On April 14th, a Marylander and outlandish white supremacist assassinated President Abraham Lincoln. Horrified Northerners had vengeful thoughts, but vengeance would have to wait. The martyred president, contrary to the wishes of his devastated wife and family, would need an appropriate send-off, a funeral to rival that of an emperor. It would be the first American national funeral and possibly the most spectacular of all. Artist and historian Michael Levy, in The Lincoln Funeral, an Illustrated History, presents this solemn, regal, and romantic event in contemporary photographs and drawings, some rarely reproduced. What emerges is a marvel of rapidly formed committees, highly polished trains, and clicking telegraph keys. Cities and towns went into a frenzy to outdo each other in honoring the fallen president. Trains and telegraphs drove the event, producing a near national hysteria that resulted in police having to restrain enormous crowds across the Northeast and Midwest. But this collection of illustrations demonstrates that the Lincoln funeral was not wholly about pageantry. The slow railroad procession and attended ceremonies to Illinois were a collective expression of the intractable grief. People wanted to somehow to keep old Abe alive, the man who only a month earlier had been despised by as many as revered him. With his death, the entire country understood how much he meant to the nation. All right, and so I mean, it's not going to take long to read it. I really like it. It's a nice collection. It's got all kinds of pictures, and I mean, each chapter starts with a narrative, and then they get right into the pictures, the actual photography from the event. I'll show you one more here, and then we'll call it good. Yeah, so Peg, thank you so very much. Real excited about these. So yeah, BookTube, you tell me what you think about these. Again, I thought this would be an appropriate way to celebrate my second birthday on BookTube, and yeah, just bring in some new books. Isn't that how we do it here on BookTube? So hope everyone is having a great day or has had a great week. The weekend is almost here. So with that in mind, BookTube, happy reading.